All right. So I don't know when there was a ceasefire because I don't think there were any days that Israel stopped killing people. So you were getting a lot of reports like that before this weekend. Israel has violated ceasefire 47 times and killed 38 Palestinians, says Gaza media office. Authorities urge UN to intervene to protect unarmed civilian populations after attack on bus that killed 11. I've read reports that that killed an entire family, that bus attack. So here's a little bit from the Today Show on this.
As you mentioned, it has not even been a week since this ceasefire was formally signed, and there are already accusations of violations, and now there have been clashes. So, as you know, Israeli troops are still inside Gaza. They've pulled out of many towns and cities, but they remain just beyond what is called the yellow line. So that is an area that is still occupied by Israeli forces, and this clash today happened in that area. According to a military official to NBC News, there were two separate incidents that an Israeli vehicle, Israeli troops operating in that area, still controlled by Israeli forces, was hit by Hamas by an RPG and sniper fire. Israeli media report that an airstrike was called in. Now, Palestinians say that there have been violations on the Israeli side and that many Palestinians who have crossed accidentally this invisible barrier separating Palestinians and Israeli forces have been shot dead. So they say Israel is violating that by killing civilians, nearly 40 of them since the ceasefire, and by not allowing in aid. It was supposed to be 600 trucks a day worth of aid coming in, but as of now, only a trickle. So a very fragile ceasefire that, as you say, is showing cracks.
Yeah,
But
so
why don't you give Trump credit? Where are you? Where are all the pro-Palestine people?
well, you could see with the line that you're not allowed to go over, and the insane demand that all the bodies be returned that are buried under rubble that they have no means of retrieving. Probably don't even know where all of them are at this point. They Israel built into this pretexts for breaking the ceasefire and blaming it on Hamas. That's what that's all about. You just create insane conditions that they can't possibly fulfill, and then you claim they violated it when you want to go start killing people again. So here's Kim Iverson. Israel violated the ceasefire repeatedly, killing 38 people, including massacring an entire family of 11 people on Friday. This is why we weren't celebrating the ceasefire. There never was a ceasefire in Israel's mind. Of course, there wasn't. And just some of the horrific bombings that have already taken place over the last 24 hours. Israel has just bombed a school that people are using as a shelter. Yeah, it's Hamas. It's Hamas. Children killed. This violates the ceasefire agreement and Article 52 of additional protocol Geneva Conventions, but international law clearly doesn't apply to Israel. No, it does not. Israel dropped 120 bombs on Gaza today, killing 44 plus civilians, mostly women and children. Well, that's their favorite. Hitting tents, a cafe, a school, and more. Among the martyrs, journalist Ahmed Matar. Ceasefire shattered. I guess they missed a journalist. Wild how one country can routinely violate the ceasefire with airstrikes, artillery, tanks firing at vehicles full of families, and withholding aid, and the Associated Press will still call its latest violation a test. Yes, very much like the Israelis are hostages and the Palestinians are prisoners. The Associated Press reports Israel strikes southern Gaza in test
of
ceasefire.
Yeah. OJ stabs wife in test of
in test
of marriage. Yeah, test well, they weren't married at the time, so that joke doesn't quite work, but you get it.
Yeah. Mehdi Hassan. All week, the pro-Israel and pro-Trump supporters screamed at us in unison, Why aren't you celebrating the ceasefire? Because we knew it wouldn't last. But even I didn't think it'd be over in less than a week. What a complete and utter humiliation for Trump,
Yep.
thanks to Netanyahu.
That's what I said.
Well, yeah, I mean everybody,
Yep.
everybody knew that. If you've paid attention to how Israel operates at all, when we covered this, Netanyahu planted the seeds to do this when he announced that he was going to agree to it. But if they don't return the bodies, he had that all built in. Israel strikes Gaza after 2 soldiers killed in gravest test of truth so far. This is from Reuters. The Israeli military said it struck Hamas targets across the enclave, including field commanders, gunmen, camels, children, bakeries. No, it's not in there, but I'm sure that's what happened. A tunnel and weapons depots after militants launched an anti-tank missile and fired on its troops, killing the soldiers. At least one strike hit a former school sheltering displaced people in the area of Nezarat, residents said. The armed wing of Hamas said it remained committed to the ceasefire agreement, was unaware of clashes in Rafah, and had not been in contact with groups there since March. And, I believe that because why would they do that? Like, why break the ceasefire unless you're going to go all the way? Like, why take pot shots at Israel? They know what they're going to do.
Yep.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said he had ordered the military to respond forcefully to what he described as Hamas's violations of the ceasefire. An Israeli security official said that the transfer of aid into Gaza has been halted until further notice. Now, understand, every time they say this, that is a fucking war crime. That is a war crime. Even if everything that they are accusing Hamas of is 100% accurate, you cannot punish a civilian population by putting it under siege. That is a war crime by definition. Following what he described as Hamas's blatant violation of the ceasefire agreement. However, Israeli media reported that aid flow would resume on Monday following U.S. pressure. Axios, citing a U.S. official, reported that Israel informed Washington that it will reopen a crossing into Gaza on Monday morning. Fearing the truce may collapse, some Palestinians rushed to buy goods from a main market in Nuseirat, and families quit their homes in Khan Yunis further south after airstrikes hit nearby. The new ceasefire took effect on October 10th, halting 2 years of war, but the Israeli government and Hamas have been accusing each other of violations of the ceasefire for days. Defense Minister Israel Katz said the yellow line to where Israeli forces had pulled back under the ceasefire agreement would be physically marked, and that any violation of the ceasefire or attempt to cross the line would be met with fire. Hamas detailed what it said was a series of violations by Israel that it says have left 46 people dead and stopped essential supplies from reaching the enclave. On Saturday, Israel said the Rafah border between Gaza and Egypt, which had been expected to be reopened this week, would remain closed, and that its reopening would depend on Hamas fulfilling its obligations under the ceasefire. Israel says Hamas is being too slow in handing over bodies of deceased hostages. Hamas last week released all 20 living hostages it had been holding, and in the following days has handed over 12 of the 28 deceased captives. The group says it has no interest in keeping the bodies of remaining hostages, and that special equipment is needed to recover corpses buried under the rubble. Yeah, of course. Why would they hold the bodies? For what possible reason? And Israel knows that. That is why they have been so insistent on this provision. They are so sick, they are so deranged that they are hoping that they can get away with creeping up and creeping up and creeping up until the ceasefire is completely broken by saying, well, they didn't return the bodies. Now, it does seem like Trump has a lot of personal political capital. It's always hard to read these things because these people lie so often. It does seem like Trump feels he has political capital invested in this not starting again. Um, that doesn't mean the Israelis are going to give a flying fuck or not going to do false flag operations to keep it going. I mean, there's really nothing you can put past them. I do believe Trump actually does want the ceasefire to hold so he can build a casino or whatever the fuck he's planning on doing. Vance, Witkoff are supposed to be going there next week to try to work out the next phase of this plan, including sending international troops in and reconstruction and disarming Hamas. But yeah, it's pretty clear. I hope I'm wrong that this is just one or two pretexts away from collapsing completely. I would be absolutely shocked, as horrific as the Trump Gaza vision is. I would be shocked if they're even able to get to that, like one step towards that.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, and this is a big embarrassment for them because they already took a victory lap. And
Yep.
this is why all these fucking morons who are out there, Trump freed Palestine. I mean, this is why, we were just so repulsed by that. And it was just so obviously born of just absolute willful ignorance of Israel's MO historically, up to and including right now, where, yes, as you said, they obviously put these provisions in the agreement so that they could be broken. Like, they were added in there because they were likely to not be fulfilled. And so,
or
yeah,
impossible
you could see it coming
to
a mile
fulfill.
away.
The
Or
bodies is
impossible to
literally
fulfill.
impossible to fulfill.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that was obviously their motivation going in. And so that is why, to answer all the fucking imbeciles' questions, why we weren't crawling up Trump's ass, right?
Yep.
And saying, "Wow, what an amazing
I don't
job."
like him, but he's doing a good job.
Yeah.
If you noticed in the No Kings rally, the old woman said that. But he's actually doing pretty good on this, so it's complicated.
It's complicated, right? Yeah. Yeah, he's doing good on this. Doing good on this. Yeah. What a bunch of fucking imbeciles. What a bunch of imbeciles. And yeah, this is something that we could see coming, and obviously there's going to be more this week on this. But yeah, this was not hard to see coming at all. Not at all.
Please clap.